Welcome to the Late Night Geek, the talk show style podcast that'll have you saying, yeah, it's okay, but the book's just so much better. Today we got a lot to talk about and a special guest by the name of Matt Man, a TikToker known for his Church of Star Wars series. So without further ado, let's get started. Concept art was just released online for a Dragon Ball theme park in Saudi Arabia. The artwork shows a very promising theme park that ensures it will transport you into Akira Toriyama's world of Dragon Ball. You can visit iconic locations such as Kame House, Capsule Corps, and of course there's a giant statue of Shenron in front of the Dragon Balls. Now this theme park looks amazing, but a lot of people are concerned that like a lot of theme parks, the wait times for the rides are going to be insane. Now a spokesperson for the park has spoken up and said that the wait times are assured to only be about 5 minutes. However, knowing Dragon Ball, that's probably going to be more like 3 or 4 episodes. In other theme park news, Tokyo Disney has announced a new attraction by the name of It's a Small World with Groot. This will be a version of the Small World ride filled with all of your favorite Marvel characters. Now this idea could be fun, unless they let Groot sing the main song, because that song is repetitive enough as it is. Can you imagine just...
I am Groot, 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 Groot.
I'm taking an infant to Disney this week, and I just know I'm gonna have to write It's a Small World. The song's already stuck in my head. For the first time in over a decade, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood has been unseated as the highest rated anime of all time. That is a very long time for a show to be the highest rated of its category, and honestly, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood deserves it. It is one of my favorite animes of all time. The anime that now takes the top spot is called Frenin Beyond Journey's End, and it's actually a very interesting concept. Basically, after an elfin mage saves the world and then lives in peace watching all of their mortal friends grow old and die, a new obstacle emerges which forces them to rejoin mortal society and take on a new apprentice. It's actually a fascinating concept about the dark side of immortality. And I'm actually very interested to watch it. I honestly don't even have a joke for this one. I'm just shocked that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood has been unseated after all these years by an anime I've never heard of. And I keep my ear to the ground when it comes to anime. Maybe in a future episode, I'll give the show a watch and review it on here. But I am fascinated to see what the anime community thinks is better than Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. X-Men 97 has released on Disney+, but just a few days before it dropped, the showrunner, Bo DeMeo, was fired. And it's very interesting that the word fired was used. Usually it's parted ways, left the project, and all of his social media went dark. I have been trying to find the reason he was fired so that I could make a joke about it on this show. But I can't find anything. He gets fired from Disney, and all of his social media goes dark. This is like unprecedented. It is sincerely bugging me that I cannot find an answer as to why he was taken off this project, especially because the first few episodes have come out, and I thought that they were really good. Also, using the word fired is very uncommon in these situations. Usually there's an amicable public split, even if the split behind the scenes was not so. So if anyone has any information about why he was fired from X-Men after already completing the writing for Season 2, someone let me know, please. A new video game is in development right now that is meant to simulate the punishment of the Greek mythical figure Sisyphus, where you must roll a boulder up an endless mountain. The developer has spoken out, saying that the mountain won't actually be endless. There will be a top, there will be an end of the game that the player can achieve, but that they are fairly certain no one will ever beat it. Does this person not understand the determination of gamers? It took several decades, but you realize someone actually beat Tetris, and it was a kid. If you put an end into this game, someone will find it. It might be well after you're long and dead 100 years from now, but there will be some person chugging Mountain Dew and peeing into a cup that will finally find the top of that mountain. One of the weirdest movie announcements I have ever seen is the live-action Harold and the Purple Crayon. You might be thinking to yourself that that's a very popular TV show. Obviously, getting a live-action adaptation is a no-brainer. However, the original cartoon stars a toddler with a purple crayon and an active imagination, and the movie is going to be starring Zachary Levi as Harold, and there's monsters in it that look like this. How did we get from this to this? Now, I'm going to be honest, the only reason I know anything about Harold and the Purple Crayon is just from pop culture. I've never actually seen it. So, as someone who's never seen that original cartoon, I'm actually really looking forward to this. I love Zachary Levi. I love crazy action and a wild concept. So, what the heck? Let's see what Harold has in store for us. The first trailer for Star Wars Acolyte has released, and because this is Star Wars, the fanboys are losing their minds for the most ridiculous reasons. One being that there are going to be Sith before the events of the prequels. What? Haven't the Sith been around for like thousands of years? Wasn't there a planet of Sith at some point? Why are these few Sith operating in the shadows bugging people? Also, look at this character design. A lot of people missed this, but that is the original design for Darth Sidious' first apprentice in The Phantom Menace. George Lucas told the concept artist, draw the scariest thing you can imagine. And this is what he drew. It was so terrifying to George, they said, draw the second scariest thing you can imagine. And that's how we got Darth Maul. And now someone is taking this concept art and turning it into a character we get to see on camera. I personally am super excited to see Star Wars Acolyte. It is the first time we are seeing an era outside of the Skywalker saga. Everything has been framed in the birth and death of the biological Skywalkers. So can we not hate something until at least it comes out? Please. Star Wars is my main fandom, and it has been so hard to be a Star Wars fan and deal with the people I have had to deal with in this community. And you know what? We're going to be talking about that with our special guest later on, but let's just move on to the next thing. Star Wars fans, chill out! The very first trailer for the sequel to the movie Beetlejuice has been released, and honestly, it looks absolutely amazing. The trailer begins with beautiful, picturesque shots of the small town from the original movie, as well as the covered bridge that took our lead characters' lives in the original film. We then see the three generations of Dietz women at a funeral, all looking very distraught, and I'm thinking that this is going to be the funeral of Mr. Dietz. And I don't know why they didn't bring this actor back. He didn't die, nor did he shoot someone. But it seems like a really strange choice not to bring him back. What? He did what? Oh! Okay, yeah, but bury that character 6 feet, 12 feet, 18... Bury him deep! Ugh. No wonder I haven't seen that guy in anything lately. What's wrong with people? But you know what? I am glad to see that when someone does something that disgusting, that their career is ruined and they never go on to be anything of note ever again. Or at least that's the way it should be! A couple episodes ago, I commented on the photos that were released for the Crow reboot and made fun of it relentlessly. And I'm gonna be honest, I just watched the trailer. I'm excited for the movie. I can't believe I'm saying that. But I just watched the trailer for it, and it actually looks like it could be really good. Why on earth does Hollywood just not think about how public perception will be when they release these set photos? Because this guy, like I said, brings up a lot of movie PTSD for people. He looks like the Joker. He's got that weird nipple tattoo. It's a reboot, so people are already nervous. But then they release the trailer, and honestly, it looks fantastic. So I don't know what to think. Is the Crow reboot going to be good? Is it going to be garbage? I'm hoping it's going to be good, because now I've gotten on a podcast and said, I think it's going to be great. I am going to lose all credibility if this movie stinks now, because everyone hates the idea of this reboot. I agreed with them, and now I'm changing my mind. So please, please, let this movie be good. I don't need to lose any more followers. A new graphic novel was just announced called Mythmakers that will be the story of the friendship between J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. If those names sound familiar, those are the authors of Lord of the Rings and the Chronicles of Narnia series, respectively. And honestly, it looks amazing. The writer and artist for the graphic novel is John Hendricks, and he wrote another great book called The Faithful Spy. This is another true story about a man named Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a pastor in Nazi Germany, who saw in the early days of Hitler's rise the same racism and segregation that he saw when studying in the South in the United States. Before Hitler was even chancellor, he saw the writing on the wall of the dangers of the Nazis, and he started this rebellious seminary teaching pastors about the truth of God's word and to reject what the state was pushing more and more. And he ended up dying for his beliefs and the part he took in Project Valkyrie, one of the most famous assassination attempts of Adolf Hitler of all time. This dude was fighting against anti-Semitism and tried to kill Hitler. If you love graphic novels or are a huge history buff, you should definitely pick up this book. The artwork is beautiful. The story is heartbreaking. And I cannot wait for Mythmakers. I'm really looking forward to it. Mr. Hendricks, if you want to come on the podcast and talk about this book and your next book, I would love to have you. You'd be a dream guest for me. But yeah, go check out John Hendricks. He's an amazing artist. Great stuff. No jokes here. It's just my glowing review of his work. Jack Black has announced that he thinks that the time is right for a School of Rock sequel, and I could not agree more. I honestly don't even care what the story is. I just love the idea of Jack Black coming back after all these years to do another School of Rock. When he did the first one, he was this young, fresh face of comedy, and now he is an absolute comedic legend, and he looks like this. When was the last time we saw Jack Black clean shaven? Was it the Muppets movie? What happens in that movie at the end?
Jack Black! What are you doing? Whoa, no, put me back down.
Oh, hell, the hobo king.
Oh my gosh. That explains it. That explains his current look. He became the Hobo King. Star Wars just had one of the craziest PR stunts I have ever seen. To kick off the March to May the 4th celebration, they took over the Empire State Building. Get it? Empire State? These photos are great. They projected a Star Wars light show on the side of the Empire State Building. They put a life-size Darth Vader Funko Pop up at the top. That is the most interesting thing you will find on the top of the Empire State Building since King Kong. I've been to New York a couple times, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a fan. I grew up outside of San Francisco, so big cities don't do it for me. But this is the first time in a long time I've actually wanted to go to New York City again. A new movie by Margot Robbie's production company is in the works, and it was based off of the Sims franchise. I don't get this at all. The Sims is just some dumb sandbox game. How are you going to make a story out of The Sims?
What?
Don't close the curtain. I'm trying to be professional here.
Excuse
What?
me? The Sims 4 had some of the best, deepest lore in any property that there has ever been. Where's Bella Goth, Jacob? I want to know what happens to Nervous Subject. There's werewolves, aliens. You could be in a freaking love triangle with Father Christmas and the Grim Reaper. The possibilities, Jake, they're endless. Now get your back straight, you hack.
I am both terrified and aroused. Anyway, I guess that's going to be a fun project. And now, a word from our sponsors. Hi, again, no real sponsors, just GFGS, God's First Geek Second, a fan club for Christian geeks. Our memberships start at $5 a month, and that gets you access to the exclusive Discord server, as well as a bunch of awesome merch discounts and exclusive content. And if you upgrade to the $10 a month, you get a free gift every single month. So head to godsfirstgeeksecond.com to learn how to join, or to just pick up some merch without joining, because the merchandise is sweet. Now, back to the show. All right, it is time for our special guest. I'm super excited for this interview. It was an amazing time. Roll the clip! Today we have a very special guest from TikTok. He is known for his Church of Star Wars videos and much, much more. I'd like to welcome onto the show, Matt Man. How you doing today, Matt?
Good, great to be here, Jake.
Awesome. So I want to learn a little bit more about you for the people who don't know who you are. How did you get started on TikTok?
So I kind of fell into place. I had never really used TikTok before. I thought it was just like, again, because it took over for Musical.ly. So I'm just like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. That was I don't really do lip syncs or anything like that. So I never really downloaded the app. But my brother, who is younger than me, would send me all these links to TikTok videos, and I would have to I'd watch them on like a browser, and I'm like, if he's gonna keep sending me this crap, I might as well download the app. So I did. I downloaded the app, and I thought to myself, while I have the app, I started watching things, and I was like, oh, this is different than what I thought it would be. This is really cool. It reminded me of Vine when Vine was a thing, and I always regretted not doing anything when that was big. So I was like, let me just make videos for fun and see what happens. And, I started off kind of just doing whatever I wanted. I just kind of I would use sounds, make little skits. There was one video that went pretty big, hit 50,000 views. I just talked about the 99 restaurant, which is like a New England style pub chain in New England. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be doing food content. That's my shtick. It's food. Yeah, I'll go through all the places in New England. That didn't pan out. So I would just try different things, and eventually I did a little skit about Star Wars, and that one went pretty big. So I said, oh, I guess I'll just try doing more of these. And unlike, the New England /food stuff, it kind of really stuck. So I just did more and more, and eventually it just turned into this whole big thing. I had never set out to be a Star Wars channel or a Star Wars page. Yeah. It just kind of happened that way.
Well, it's funny because your name is Matt Man, which I'm guessing is a reference to Batman, and your background is all Batman.
And if you watch any of my videos, I'm always behind this backdrop. My Star Wars stuff is over there on that wall, and I've tried filming there before, but it's it doesn't look as good, and I'm not moving the stuff around. So I just stick to this background. But if you watched just my screen, you would think this is a Batman channel. And I have talked about Batman in the past and stuff like that, and I'll talk about it occasionally, but it definitely didn't take off like the Star Wars stuff did, that's for sure.
So how did the Church of Star Wars come about?
Okay, so the first Church of Star Wars I recorded, it was after the season finale, I think, of The Mandalorian season 2. And I came home from watching it with a buddy of mine, and I don't know what prompted it. I just kind of thought it had been a revival for me of Star Wars. The Mandalorian was oh my gosh, I'm super excited about Star Wars again. And I just decided to make a little skit video, and it actually was like, you'd be surprised considering the content I make now, but I actually had a little joke in there about the sequels, which again, like knowing any of my content today, you would be like, he made a joke about the sequels? Because I'm usually like the avid defender of the sequels, but the first ever Church of Star Wars literally had a bit about the sequels being Satan's temptations, which I find funny given what I make now, but it just shows we all have room to grow. But that developed in like everyone like picked up on like the Monty Python style kind of voice, and it turned into it like the video I made after that wasn't really like the Book of series didn't start like that, was really like the whole birth of the actual character in the Church of Star Wars. The first few were just kind of like skits based off of that, and like the second one was just kind of me doing like the Monty Python monologue, but instead of like the Holy Hand Grenade, it was the Holy Seismic Charge. And I did like the book. It was like, that was the first book of like the Book of Boba Fett. And then just kind of snowballed into like a bunch of different things. And I think the character developed like right after that.
Well, it's funny you bring up the sequel hate, because like I remember when the sequels first came out, I definitely was one of those people like, these are hot garbage. I'm not a fan. But then over time, I don't know if it was just because people started hating on the wrong things of it.
Yeah.
Like hating just the existence of Rose and Rey and Holdo, that I was like, okay, now I got to find things about the sequels that I like, because I don't like being lumped in with the people who just hate the existence of women in Star Wars.
Seriously. That's honestly why I don't really talk about, because I have my gripes with the sequels too, as much as I defend it. And like everyone, it's so funny to see the comments too, like, oh, you sequel lovers, like anytime I defend the sequels, like, you Disney shill. And I'm just like, I'm just saying you shouldn't be mean to people. I really don't actually give my full kind of thoughts on the sequels because of that, because I feel like it's just like, I have my fair share. I thought about doing it one day, like actually going back and rewatching them and doing like a deep dive on my actual thoughts. But I stay away from that because it's kind of just like, I realized very early on, you can make jokes about certain, like whenever I'd make like the Book of series about Rey or Finn, there would always be jokes about those characters. Like you can make jokes about those things, but I learned very quickly that you don't want to really feed into that much hate. And that's why I don't usually do a lot of jokes about the sequels specifically.
Yeah.
Just because it's not that you can't make jokes about the sequels, it's that whenever you do, it's like you said, you're lumped in with a lot, because that's where all the hate goes nowadays.
Yeah.
And I just kind of chose to stay kind of away from it. But yeah, they definitely, I do want to do one day where I just kind of talk about some of the issues. I actually have not rewatched all of them all the way through since The Rise of Skywalker came out. I have seen bits and pieces, but I have not done a full watch of 7, 8, and 9 since that movie came out, just because it's like, I've said this before, but episode 9 is my least favorite. So like whenever I try to watch them, I'm just like, oh, but episode 9 is coming up. But I did the same thing you did. Like I took the approach where I actually made a video like, here's all the things that I like about episode 9. Because despite how you feel about a movie, there's always something good you can find. Like I may not have liked the story or like some of the writing, but the characters work really well together. They shine a lot. Like these actors are trying with the material that they have. Yeah. Some of the elements that they brought into the Force was really interesting, like the dyad situation, the items traveling between the Force, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
The practical effects, it looks beautiful. The sound design, like there is a lot to love about that movie if you look past like what you yourself just wanted in the story. Like if you look past like what you hope to see and you just look at it as like a film, there's a lot of really good stuff there. And that's sort of how I try to I try to make that show through my content, where I try to do more positive stuff than negative stuff, unless the Church of Star Wars stuff is clearly like a bit. Yeah. But, I try not, I just feel like there's too much hate already in the communities.
I always tell people that I feel the sequels are 3 good movies, but a bad trilogy.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. They work well individually, but they don't work well together, and that's my biggest gripe. Is that they're well. Ryan Johnson and J.J. Abrams are good directors, and the actors are all really good performers, and the VFX are great, and the practical effects are great. They just they don't have cohesion together, and that's where I think they fall short.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. 100%. I feel like one is a reaction to the other.
Yeah.
Like episode 7 played it too safe, and they just kind of did a rehash of episode 4. So everyone mentioned that, like, hey, this is just episode 4 again. So Ryan Johnson came in and was like, I bet I'm going to do something completely different out of left field. And a lot of people like that, myself included, but a lot of people didn't. So a lot of people freaked out, like, you went too far. This is too much. So then they had to push back again. They brought J.J. Abrams back, and it kind of just felt like 9 was supposed to be the sequel to 7, and they just kind of pretended that 8 didn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's really jarring. But again, like you said, when you look at these movies as like when you just kind of break them down individually, like as stupid as Palpatine's, like somehow Palpatine returned is, when you look at the narrative of the story, like from a Star Wars fan perspective, it seems kind of silly, but just from a narrative, like everything makes sense.
It rhymes.
Yeah, everything in the movie, like you're able to follow the plot of episode 9. It's not like there's nothing in that movie that's like necessarily confusing. It's just that it kind of, like, when you're looking at it just from that movie's perspective, it's where you try to connect it to the other movies.
Yeah.
Where it falls apart. And I just think that was which surprises the crap out of me, because this is like the studio that was like, that planned with Marvel. They planned so thoroughly with Marvel, and then with Star Wars, they were just like, we'll wing it. Which they did in Star Wars before. Star Wars has kind of like done that before. It's not always like something that's like super planned out. Like I'm one of those people that was almost positive, like Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be a lot bigger than he was.
Yeah.
But George kind of pulled back after episode 1. But
I mean, Darth Jar Jar would have redeemed all the annoying things about him. I think absolutely. If the third movie dropped and we found out Jar Jar was a Sith Lord, I've been like, okay, retroactively that all because
it's all makes sense. Technically, Darth Jar Jar is canon in the Church of Star Wars. I did the book of Jar Jar, and someone made me do like Darth Jar Jar, and it's technically canon in the Church of Star Wars universe. So
it's the
that's
Council
something
of Nicaea.
Yep,
it was canonized.
It's official. We canonized it.
It's not part of the Apocrypha. Yeah. So
that's another big fight. Oh, sorry.
Well, I remember. Okay, I was a purist for a long time with Star Wars, where for me it was the original trilogy and the Clone Wars series, and that was it for me for a long time. But it wasn't until I watched Star Wars with my now wife when we were dating. She had never seen it, so I was watching it again through fresh eyes, and I realized every complaint I have about like the prequels, because I was a big prequel hater. Every complaint I had about the prequels, I could have that exact same complaint about the original trilogy. The dialogue's not great.
No.
Like you watch the original trilogy, the dialogue, that's like the biggest complaint people usually have about the prequels is Anakin's dialogue. And when I watched back the prequels again through fresh eyes, I thought these are actually really good, and at least the trilogy's cohesive. At least it makes sense as a trilogy. And Hayden Christensen is a much better actor than people give him credit for.
100%.
And I don't know who posted this, but someone said if you lower the pitch of Hayden Christensen and his Anakin lines, he is doing the cadence of James Earl Jones.
I have to find that because that'd be really cool.
It's crazy. If you lower the pitch of Hayden Christensen's lines in episode 2, it sounds like James Earl Jones. It's like his exact vocal cadence. And then if you raise up the pitch of James Earl Jones in Star Wars, it sounds like Anakin Skywalker.
See, that's cool. I have to go find that because I have never really hated Hayden Christensen. I kind of never understood where that came from because, like, it's like nobody is really giving a good, like Samuel L. Jackson is giving the most monotone performance he's ever given. But everyone attacked Hayden. And I feel like it's so unfair. It really was so unfair. The way they went after him. But I kind of like, I remember watching, like everyone did the prequel bashing, and, there was a time where, as much as I love like Red Letter Media and stuff like that, like the whole, Mr. Plinkett reviews thing, the whole like video essays about the prequels, like I feel like that's where a lot of it kind of like blew up. Like a lot of the prequel hate just kind of, so like once the internet kind of started, they went back to view them, and it just was like everything was bashing the prequels. But now all of a sudden, like they are praised, and I was like, you can. I'm kind of in like the middle camp. Like I see the imperfections, but like I grew up with them as a kid. I don't care. Like and I feel like the same thing can be said for the sequels. Like there's going to be kids that grow up with this. They're going to probably grow up and be like, oh yeah, there's some things that I don't like, but it was my childhood. I love it for that reason, and that's why I love the prequels. And I feel like the Clone Wars really, if you watch the prequels with the mentality of like the Clone Wars, like the show, it makes the prequels like you see so much more, and I feel like it makes them 10 times better. Like having that kind of like knowledge through the Clone Wars really enhance it, because it fills in a lot of the gaps that I think the prequels had, like between like this whole war that starts at the end of 2, but by the like beginning of 3 it's over. Like you think of like before the Clone Wars even came out, like if you're watching that in the theater, like, wait, didn't they just say this started? Like Yoda even said, begun, the Clone War has. And then literally episode 3 starts, well, it's over. We did it. Good game.
Ridiculously good Yoda. What the heck?
Thanks. But like, I feel like if you gave the sequels the same treatment that the prequels got, like you have a show that takes place in the 30-year span, and you can do this because even though Carrie Fisher has passed away, nobody's really ever cared about recasting through animation. You could do a whole animated series of that 30-year gap and give everybody what they wanted while also giving clarity to the sequel trilogy. You could literally fill in the gaps. And that's why I honestly think from now on, like if you're going to do Star Wars, I feel like Star Wars, especially like with the trilogies, like there's so much now, there's so much lore. It just needs to be a show. They need to be like, and not like one-off shows either. Like just make it like a series. Like you could probably fix a lot of the problems in the sequels by just having it kind of be fleshed out as a series instead of 3 movies. But again, movies is kind of where the money's made because people go to the movies and they buy tickets. So I understand why they do it. I just feel like sometimes the trilogies get too big for their own good. There's too much lore. There's too much going on. But that's just me.
Yeah. Leia actually has already been recast in animation by an actress named Julie Golan. She played her in Rebels. I actually got to interview her on my last web show 6 years ago, something like that.
That's so cool.
But yeah, so I think you're right. I think animation, we could definitely fill in some gaps. Clone Wars is just so when I saw the movie, I could not stand Ahsoka. And Ahsoka has grown to become my favorite Jedi.
I was the same way when I first saw the Clone Wars in the theaters. I remember I was in California with my cousin. We were visiting my cousin. We went to go see the movie together, and I just remember watching it and being like, and like now that you like knowing that it was basically just 4 episodes of the show strung together, it makes a lot more sense. Because that's exactly how it flows. Like, it doesn't really flow like a movie. But I was like, oh my God, what is this? Why give him an apprentice? This doesn't make sense. And then, like, literally 180. You watch the Clone Wars. Ahsoka is now my favorite Star Wars character, like, of all time. I absolutely plan on getting an Ahsoka tattoo, like the Fulcrum tattoo on my arm. I want it so bad.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Like, she is my favorite character in Star Wars. In fact, I'm very excited for her season 2. She just got to season 2, so that was good. I loved her show. I think Rosario Dawson is perfect. I think Ashley is an amazing voice actress. It's Ashley, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Ashley Eckstein.
I can't remember the last name, but it really did redeem the character for me. Like as you see her grow, you're like, oh no, this is a really good character.
Yeah, especially in Rebels. I really loved her in Rebels.
Yeah,
she was a great addition.
I did too, and I feel bad for saying this, but like the best parts of Rebels for me, was like when all the Clone Wars stuff happened. Like when Rex came back, we had Ahsoka come back. The moment with Vader is just bone chilling.
Oh my gosh! And the way they did kind of a reflective scene with Obi-Wan, where she sliced off one side and the other.
Yes.
Oh,
it's like poetry.
I don't cry at movies, but that scene with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan made me tear up.
Yeah, it was honestly one of the. That's why I feel like that series has so many good. Again, it's one of those things where it's like it may have its issues, but there are so many other really good moments in that show. I think where it fell apart for me was just honestly the pacing.
Yeah,
that's it. I feel like
probably could have worked. That's one of those things that probably could have worked well as a movie.
Again, it's kind of like the opposite of my last point. It's like I feel like that would have been a really good standalone. Like I rewatched it recently. Actually, I rewatched the entire series. And you could like literally take out episode, I think it was 4, where she gets captured. Because like it's quite literally just they go rescue her and then it's back to the plot. Yeah. Like you could cut that entire episode and honestly, not much changes. Like you could literally just have like you could have like little scenes kind of like, because there are some things like Reva learns some things from Leia, but you could easily just like the location of the base. You could easily have just Reva like sneak behind Leia and put a tracker on her or something at the end of like the last episode, and then shoot to the next one without even doing the prison scene, without doing the prison show episode. Like you could cut that show down a lot. And I actually am very interested because I did hear that there was somebody that did that. They cut the show down into a like 2.5 hour movie or something like that. And I would be very interested. You can't really find it anymore. You have to like download it. So I have to go find it. But I'd be very interested to see how that plays out because I feel like that would seriously be a really, really good movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're almost towards the end of our time here, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about what Star Wars projects you're excited about. The Acolyte trailer just came out. We saw Skeleton Crew coming down the road. What has Mattman excited?
Probably Ahsoka season 2.
Okay.
I'm excited for the most. I am actually very excited for the new Rey movie, just because I feel like with everything they've learned, I think these characters deserve a second chance. Just like Hayden Christensen got his second chance, I think Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, they deserve to have their second chance because they work really well together. I think they're great actors. So I do want that redemption movie. I think it deserves to have its sequel. Because now it's not connected to the Skywalker plot.
Yeah.
Like I think the Skywalker plot I feel like has been finished. That movie is done, but these characters go on, and I think now they can kind of create their own story. And I think that would be really interesting to see. And I am very excited for the Acolyte. Not very excited for the comments that come with it. Like quite literally, oh my God, this is honestly why I've taken a break from social media. Like I've been kind of off for the last month. And it's just like every post I saw about the Acolyte, without fail, almost like the number one, like on Facebook, it's like the number one, like the like emoji is the laughter emoji. And like the top comments are all, it's going to be woke. It's just another woman coming in and talking about feminism. And it's like, you haven't even seen, we don't even know the plot of the show yet. Like, it's just a teaser trailer. We know nothing. Like, it's just, I'm not looking forward to the comments about the Acolyte, but I am looking forward to the show itself because I read the synopsis kind of like the director had talked about it. And, she kind of was like, Star Wars has always been about the underdogs, but in this series, the Sith are the underdogs. So it's kind of like a role reversal. It's like the Jedi are the establishment, and like the Sith are kind of like the it's like a different perspective, and I love that. I one of the biggest things I loved about Ahsoka season 1 was I can't remember. Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. Balin, thank you. I knew that was the name. I just didn't. I felt like I was going to get it wrong. Balin is one of the most interesting villains we've gotten in Star Wars because he's not like a black and white mustache twirling villain.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun to watch Vader throw a sword around and just be pure evil, but sometimes it's nice to be like, oh, you know what? I kind of agree with this guy. This guy's making a lot of sense. And to kind of get a more mature villain in Star Wars that's not just like, I'm evil. Like it's going to be really interesting. And I really do think we need to take a break from the Skywalker plot.
Yeah.
For forever. That's done. And anything that's not going to be even remotely related to that is going to be interesting to me. So I think the Acolyte, although I don't know much about High Republic, I never read the comic books. The only thing I've really actually interacted with is the Jedi Survivor game. They had some High Republic stuff in there. That's literally all I really know about the High Republic. So I am excited to see something new. I really, really am. I think it's going to be it has the chance to be a really, really good show.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it too. The one thing that I noticed from the trailer was one of the characters. She has like the long red. I can't tell if it's braids or dreads. I was watching my phone, but that seems to be inspired by one of the early Darth Maul concept arts.
Oh, that's cool. I have to look at that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love when they do that. They do that a lot in Star Wars. They'll just take old concept art and be like, this is a new character now.
Yeah, it was Darth Lucas. George Lucas told his concept artist, draw the scariest thing imaginable you can. And he draws this woman with sharp teeth, this red, long, kind of dread-like hair. And the Night Sisters are also inspired by it. With the like pale skin and the narrow jawlines. And then he said, okay, draw the second scariest thing. And that's how we got Darth Maul.
I do love that's funny. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, if you look at the early Darth Maul concept art, it'll be one of the first things that pops up. Night Sisters, which they're Darth Maul's people too, so makes sense they'd be inspired by it. But yeah, I think that character might have a little touch of inspiration by that.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is all my questions. I want to give you a chance to let people know what you're doing, what you got coming up, where they can find you, just pitch yourself. But
all right. Well, you guys can find me at the Matman Show on, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I don't do as much on YouTube. I'm trying to grow it, but Instagram and TikTok is kind of where I do a lot of my stuff. I have been a bit absent from TikTok, but I do plan on coming back. If anybody who's watching this is mutuals with both me and Jake, watch both of us. People have been asking for the Book of Ahsoka for the longest time. I have something like a rough draft written. So that should be coming soon. And I do want to start making content again at some point. I may do videos sporadically here and there, but yeah, that's where you can find me. I also will most likely have open commissions on art soon. So if anybody wants some of that, you can check art out on my Instagram and stuff like that if you're interested.
Alrighty. Thank you again for coming on, Matt. Have a wonderful day. May the Force be with you, and this is the way.
This is the way.
Thank you again, Matt, for being on the show, and thank you to you amazing audience for watching. This show still isn't getting crazy views, but I don't care, because the few people that do watch it every other week are the people I am doing it for. Although I would still love to share it with more people and, get better equipment, a better set, and sponsors and stuff. So please share it with your friends, talk about it at work, annoy the heck out of your family members until they watch it. And of course, in the comments, please leave your recommendations for who you would love to see on as a guest or a musical number. And have a wonderful day. Stay geeky.